Hello and welcome to another video of our Strain Academy YouTube channel. Do you need a fast and reliable installation for a quick measurement, a field application or a temporary measurement lasting up to 1 year? Then a fast room temperature curing adhesive is the way to go. Therefore, in this video we will show you how to properly bound a gauge with M-Bond 200 for micro measurements, a cyanoacrylate based adhesive. Our procedure is based on the Code of Practice of the British Society for Strain Measurements and bulletin B127 for micro measurements, ensuring that every step follows recognized and proven standards. We'll guide you step by step through the bonding process, sharing best practices to make sure your gauge delivers accurate and consistent results every time. Let's dive in. These are the things you need for an installation with M-Bond 200 cyanoacrylate adhesive. Gauge handling tape, an M-Bond 200 adhesive kit, some neutralizer, a glass plate to handle your gauges, blunt nose tweezers, some gauze sponges and your gauges. In this video we will show you 4 important parts when installing a strain gauge with M-Bond 200. First, how do we handle the gauge? Second, how do you position the gauge? Third, how do we apply the adhesive? And fourth, how do we remove the tape that we used during the handling of the gauge? When handling gauges, it is important that you never touch a strain gauge with your bare hands. The reason is that you don't want contaminants from your hands spreading all over your gauge. This concerns also the tools you're going to use when handling the gauge. So in this case, a glass plate and your tweezers. So we'll have to clean those. We do this with the neutralizer for micro measurements, squirt a little bit inside the gauze sponge and clean the tweezers. We do the same for the glass plate. Squirt a little bit onto the glass plate and scrub roughly wet a gauze sponge so that you're sure the surface is nice and clean. Now that our tools and surfaces are clean to handle a gauge, we're gonna position this gauge on top of our test object. How do we do that? They come pre-packed in a cellophane tape and they're sealed from one side, so it's easy to open them up. Keep it with one hand open and go in with your blunt nose tweezers, grab them from the back of the gauge and position them onto the glass plate. Now you see why this glass plate has to be clean, so you don't contaminate the gauge. Once positioned, we're gonna take a piece of the gauge handling tape for micro measurements. We're gonna remove the first bit as this side is open. It might have contaminants, so we don't want that. We throw it away. We take another piece, approximately 10 centimeters. 10 centimeters is easy to handle, so you have enough room here. And as we cannot touch a gauge, we're gonna wanna stick a gauge underneath there so we can shift this and change them and install them on the surface. So we're gonna get that gauge sticking underneath that tape just by positioning it over it, and now it's easier for us to go and handle the gauge with the tape attached to it. Now let's position that gauge that is under the tape onto the surface of our test object, and this will be done by lifting the tape. Make sure you lift the tape under a shallow angle so that you don't plastically deform the gauge in case you would peel it off under a too steep angle. So keep the angle shallow. Once the gauge is lifted, you can go and take the tape and you have the gauge that you can easily move around. On the aluminium piece, we will try to position that as good as possible with the arrows and the markings on the gauge on top of our burnish line. There you go. Once it's positioned, we can always lift it back up if we are not satisfied with the position of the gauge and reposition it. The surface is clean, so that should not be a problem as long as you use a shallow angle. Now, with the gauge positioned on your test object, it's time to apply the adhesive. So let's put aside the glass plate and we can now position our test object in such a way that we already consider our swiping move we will need when applying the adhesive. Now, to be able to apply the adhesive, we will need to lift back up the gauge and apply it on the surface. So let's first fix down our test object with a piece of tape so that when we do the swipe, it doesn't slide away. And now we can lift up that tape again under a shallow angle and I'm gonna position that gauge. Leave approximately a couple of millimeters, approximately 5 millimeters behind that gauge, so you have enough space to apply the adhesive. I'm gonna fix the other end of the aluminium beam. This will stop the glue line to go all the way over, and you might stop the glue line there. As said, we will be using M-Bond 200 adhesive from Micro Measurements. It comes with an adhesive and a catalyst. The catalyst will make sure the bonding process is accelerated. So, to apply the catalyst, just open the bottle screw cap and you make sure to apply as less as possible. So we're gonna just swipe off that excess fluid from the little brush and apply it in one go. Start from the back end of the gauge, make it as flat as possible in one go and go as far as possible and close back the bottle and wait. Now we'll have to wait for the catalyst to dry up. Let it rest for approximately 1 minute and then we can apply the adhesive. Okay, so this would be approximately 1 minute. So you will also see that the catalyst has fully dried out as it has a matte finish instead of a shiny finish. When you apply it, it's wet. When it's dry, you will see there is a slightly matte blue finish on the gauge. So time to apply the adhesive. It comes in an easy to use bottle, and how we do this by applying one drop on the interface between the surface and the tape and let the droplet drop. So don't make it touch, don't touch with the nose of the bottle, otherwise it might not be always the same size of droplet. We wait until it's pressed all across the width of the tape. Have a gauge sponge folded double and make that swipe. Make sure you apply enough pressure and apply your thumb pressure now for approximately 1 minute. The pressure and the heat of your thumb will make sure the bonding will be good. So once the minutes are over, we need to let it rest for another 2 minutes and then the installation should be ready. This should be approximately 2 minutes, so there's only one step left to do, and just to remove the tape and check if we have a successful installation. So to remove the tape now, what we previously done is we use a shallow angle because we don't want the gauge to be bent. Yeah, we don't want it to plastically deform. Now is the opposite. Yeah, of course we don't want it to be plastically deformed, but an installation of a strain gauge has very low peel strength, but it has very high shear strength. So we're going to use that to remove the tape, and so we're going to roll it all over his back to remove it. So lift up the tape, we will see here still some undried adhesive. That's normal, there is excess adhesive, but to remove the tape, just pull back. We'll see here that the adhesive is dry, and when coming back after the gauge, you will see it is perfectly installed. Now we can have a look at the installation, and we will see that there is a nice glue line here and there, and basically where the tape has been sitting, we see fully a nice cover of the adhesive. If we have a closer look at the gauge itself, we see it's perfectly flat and there is nothing underneath the gauge. So this is a nice installation and is ready to solder some cables on. This was a video on how to successfully install a gauge with M-Pond 200. We like to end this video with some key notes to keep in mind to ensure a proper bond. 1. Always keep the gauge handling surfaces and tools clean. 2. Use a shallow angle during gauge handling with the tape. 3. Let the adhesive drop fall onto the surface to get a uniform drop each time. 4. Use a gauge and apply firm pressure during the swipe. And 5. Peel back the tape on itself when removing the tape after the bonding. We hope this video was helpful. If you liked it, press like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and see you in the next videos.